Hey, this is C-Dub for WOFOYO Pathfinding Resources. Let's pop open a 40. Nah, I'm not talking about a drink. Let's take a look at the number 40 in the Bible. 40 is the number of testing. Another way to say it is that it is the number of temptation. Now, if you don't pass a test, there's a good chance you will have to go through the process again. The good news is that if you pass a test, there's bigger and better things that you get to do. There's also extra responsibility that comes along with that. Now, we just got through doing a podcast where we talked about Elijah. After the victory on Mount Carmel over the prophets of Baal, he flees from Jezebel. He goes out into the wilderness, eats angel food, and is sustained 40 days before encountering the Lord at Mount Horeb. The Lord causes a whirlwind, then an earthquake, followed by a fire to pass before Elijah. All of these represent a previous way God moved, but Elijah realizes God isn't in them. The Lord then manifests as a still small voice or a gentle wind, and Elijah recognizes him. He passes the test. Then he receives his new commission or set of instructions. Right after he's baptized in the River Jordan, Jesus is led into the wilderness for 40 days while fasting. He's tempted by the devil to turn stones into bread, jump off the pinnacle of the temple to prove he's the Son of God, and also to bow down and worship the devil in exchange for dominion over all the kingdoms of the earth. In other words, take the easy way out. Jesus refutes each temptation with the Word of God and returns in power. By the way, he still got the dominion. Moses was familiar with 40. He was 40 years old when he visited his brethren in Egypt, killed a guy, and went into the wilderness of Midian 40 years before encountering the burning bush. He then leads the children of Israel out of Egypt and into the wilderness for another 40 years. Why did they wander in the wilderness 40 years? Well, they sent 12 scouts to search the land and report back. 10 out of the 12 came back with a bad report. They failed the test and died in the wilderness. Only 2 out of the 12 passed the test, Joshua and Caleb. They got to enter into the promised land. While in the desert, Moses went up to be with the Lord 40 days in the mountain and received the tablets of the law and the design for the tabernacle. When he came down, the Israelites had fashioned a golden calf they were worshiping and partying it up. He smashes the tablets, destroys the golden calf, and makes the people drink it. He also killed about 3,000 men. They failed the test. He then goes back into the mountain another 40 days without eating or drinking and received more copies of the law, sees God's back, and when he comes back down, his face is glowing, so he has to wear a veil. It's almost like saying there is a degree of separation between what you've experienced with God and what people can comprehend. Speaking of the tabernacle, it had 40 sockets of silver that held the floorboards of the tabernacle in place. Silver is symbolic of truth. So it's almost like the design is saying that the period of testing reveals truth that you can build everything else on and do your work for the Lord. Noah was in the ark while it rained 40 days and 40 nights. So even though it seems like a trial, it can actually be the very thing that saves you from judgment. Jonah preached against Nineveh 40 days. 40 stripes was the maximum amount of punishment you could receive under the law. Joseph had his father Jacob, or Israel, embalmed for 40 days so he could be taken back to be buried in the Promised Land. Many Bible characters married at 40, and many leadership periods in Judges and Samuel lasted 40 years. Even after he is resurrected, Jesus spent 40 days with the disciples before he ascended to the Father in Acts 1. So there you have it. Just a few examples of how 40 is significant in the Bible. If you like this video and some of what it had to say, check us out at www.wofoyo.org or check out the WOFOYO podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Remember, if you're going to grow, you gotta WOFOYO. Get into the Word for yourself. Have a good one.